Hockey Town, it's a place where dreams are found. We fought so many battles here, now we're the ones that they will fear. The cup resides within our town, we won't stop no letting down. The cup is ours, we're all to drink. It's our time, let's rock this ring.
Oh, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hockey Town Rundown. You're here with us once again, your beautiful hosts, Zach and Derek. Derek, it's just you and I today, buddy. How's your Sunday so far? Overall weekend?
Not too bad, buddy. Been lazy as all hell, and had a great morning so far that I let you guys know in the group chat. But I'm still alive and thriving, so here we go. Let's have a good day. How you been, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. I did a lot of cleaning yesterday. Did a lot of restructuring in my house. So yeah, just reorganized a bunch of stuff. So a lot of internal usage going on in my place. But other than that, yeah, been a beautiful weekend. Yeah, this morning's been very interesting, not just for you. I think for all of us, we were thrown into a loop. We did have something planned for today, but that's okay. Because it will happen on the next episode, which is awesome. So claps to them, to those that we're talking about. We're going to leave it as a surprise for everyone joining us today. And we wanted to stop and say, thank you for joining us. If you are returning, if you are new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, give us a follow, rate us the 5 stars. And if you're on Apple, I don't even know what you do on Apple, but keep listening to us on Apple too.
Rate us 5 apples, I don't know.
Yeah, do what you got to do. Tag a friend to tag a friend. Also, if you have not seen it, if you are on Twitter, we are doing a giveaway for these lovely Hockey Town Rundown hot hats once we reach 500 subscribers. So that is a Twitter giveaway. If you're not following us on Twitter, go ahead and do that to enter the giveaway. You will have to retweet and then submit a photo of you being subscribed to us on YouTube. So go ahead and do that if you haven't. And so, Derek, yeah, we're doing 3 giveaways. So 3 lucky winners, by the way. I will say that. So Derek will be selecting the winners of that because he's really good at that. So, all right, buddy.
I don't know how to use Twitter, so let's have fun with that.
We got kind of a lot today. Let's get into it, buddy. But we do have some Red Wings news based on my background, if you guys can read it. MBN signed his entry-level contract, $970,000 for 3 years. He was just drafted this most recent draft in 2024, 15th overall by the Detroit Red Wings. Derek, what does this mean to you? What does this mean for the org overall? Thoughts on the signing?
Well, it kind of makes me sad that he might not be able to play with ASP now over in Skellefteå, but at the same time, if he's that good, we already got him on an entry-level contract, and he blows it out of the water at camp. Are we going to be seeing this man on the opening night roster, or are we going to see him down the line? Because at that point, it does seem like he already has an AHL spot. But does he want to do the AHL or SHL? Get more accustomed to the league right away, or play in a professional league? I don't know. But, I mean, it's fun to see. It's good signing. It's good news for the Red Wings. I just want to know what's going to happen here in the next couple months. Is he actually going to be on the team or not?
Yeah, and for those of you that are unaware, there was an article posted on Twitter by Nitten.no. I believe I'm saying that right, but it seems to be a Swedish article or Norwegian article. Yeah, Norwegian. You had to translate it to English, but Let's Go Red Wings Prospects on Twitter was the first one to post that, so shout out to them for posting that. So that did give us the ability to post that as well. Translating it to English, some of it, it's decided Brandsegg-Nygard will go to Sweden in August for training camp with Skellefteå before returning to Detroit for camp in September. And there was the question asked, is there a possibility that you play in the AHL or possibly in the NHL? And to Derek's point, you have to blow the doors completely out, basically like Raymond, Seider, and how Dylan Larkin did, right? I mean, you have players like Mazur, Kasper, and Danielson well ahead of him. Can he make it on the NHL roster? I don't believe so. I know a lot of people were probably sick of me posting a lot of things about MBN and the possibility of it. But make no mistake, don't take it too lightly, because it is really interesting that he signed his ELC very short after being drafted. the Red Wings, Steve Yzerman, Draper, everyone obviously seem to see a lot in this player. They like his shot. He brings a lot to the table, and so we're just going to have to wait and see how training camp ends up becoming. So, could we see him in the AHL? Yeah, I think maybe with him in ASP once their season with Skellefteå is over in the SHL. Yeah, we could see him in some AHL games, maybe some NHL games at the end. A lot has to come down to that. So, wait and see. Derek, also. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just go back, piggyback off that thing. Did you see that video of him when he was just at the camp where he was just doing bar down shots? I didn't see any of that in any of his highlight reels, but then you actually see what he's talking about. Why him say his best attribute is probably his shot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, those are beautiful. Like just bar down every time. I was like, there may not be a goalie in net, but if you can just do that every time, you're probably going to score 50% of those, which is a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, I would say he probably has the best shot in the Red Wings prospect pool right now, currently, as it stands. Maybe Mazur can give him a run for his money, but I would definitely put him up there as a top 2 favorite for sure. Let us know down in the comments what do you think about his shot. But yeah, Steve Yzerman, MBN, both they would agree and say they think that his best attribute is his shot, and it's a really good one. He could shoot at every angle. He could shoot at every spot on the ice. He's very smart with it. So yeah, a lot to be excited about this player. And so how soon can we see him? Let us know what you think down in the comments as well. Derek, moving along, let's go ahead and talk about some of the press conferences that happened, or at least media availabilities, as you will, for newly signed Vladimir Tarasenko, Christian Fischer, returning player, and then Patrick Kane, returning player as well. Tarasenko, just the start of the presser. Helene St. James. I don't know why that question just
what
the question just could not get across to him whatsoever. I don't even really remember the question, but great media availability, great questions being asked, great answers being provided. One of them being that Kane played a role in getting him interested in being here. He loves that. Not just Detroit, but Michigan. Not saying that players live in Detroit. I'm sure that's probably the case for most major cities that players don't live in there. But yeah, there's a lot of surrounding cities, Detroit, that families love to set their families in and grow up at, and so Bloomfield Hills, maybe Royal Oak, places like those, like St. Clair Shores, maybe even. So
let's be honest, most of them are living in Northville right now. You got to pick the most bougiest area in all of Detroit that's close. Like, it's Northville. That's where most of them live.
Yeah. And also another key point too, he mentioned just a little cool one. He really loves the Detroit Red Wings and always has, being a Russian player and knowing that the Red Wings had the Russian 5, and being that original 16, he kind of idolized the Detroit Red Wings a little bit, like a lot of people over in Russia did during that time when he was growing up as a child, So, and he mentioned when he got a PlayStation, when he got the NHL game too, that the first team that he selected to play with and put himself on was the Detroit Red Wings, which I thought was really cool. Says a lot about the organization, our front office, the team that we currently have. It definitely, as a fan, it makes you feel good, or at least it makes me feel good. I don't know about you, Derek, but what are your takeaways from that media availability from Tarasenko? I thought it was awesome.
I mean, the biggest point he took away from was the fact that he said that Detroit was one of the best teams and most liked teams in the entire world. I was like, cool. Good to know that everyone out there thinks the Red Wings are pretty awesome like we do. It's like, I'm sorry for the last couple of years. It's been hard to watch us, but I still love to hear that. That means everywhere in the world, people all around, the Red Wings are a staple in their household if they're a hockey community. So let's keep that running. Original 6, everyone loves it.
Yeah. And then going on to Christian Fischer's media presser, not really too much to take away from it. Other than he said that Detroit was always the spot that he wanted to go to. He just ended up going into free agency for whatever reason, but he always had his heart set on Detroit, which is awesome to hear. He's a big, how do I say this? He's a big key player amongst the fans, right? The fans love him. I love him. Fish. I love Christian Fischer. I love me some Fish. Great piece for the fourth line, bottom six, whatever you're going to put him at. He did a really good job on that third line with Rasmussen and Kopp for that time period that they did play together. And he mentioned that, you know, he enjoyed playing with them too. So one thing that I did want to mention too about that interview or that media availability with him is that was such a big flex on him for doing that on a boat in Italy. That was so cool. Just floated down the Clinton River and ended up in Italy somehow.
Didn't even know where he was when they asked where he's like, I quick looks around like, yeah, I'm on a boat. Where are we? Oh, Italy. Like just nonchalantly. Oh, you're just in Italy. Just out there flexing that brand new contract money real quick, buddy. I see you.
I don't blame him. I probably would have done the same thing. And then you got Patrick Kane, the guy who comes back, the guy that we really hoped would get what he deserved, but at a reasonable deal, and he did. And so he said a lot of great things. You know, he brought up, you know, Detroit also was a place that he really wanted to come back to. It made a lot of sense for him and his family. He talked about, you know, the ability to improve and make the playoffs and how much is on the line and expectations moving forward. He provided a lot of really great answers. I did provide a lot of video feed up on Twitter. If you guys haven't checked that out, go ahead and do that. But you can obviously watch the full video on YouTube for all these players. Yeah, he played a huge role in bringing Tarasenko in here. Really loved hearing that. Tarasenko's girlfriend reached out to Patrick Kane's wife, I'm assuming is his wife, just talking about it and just really selling Detroit as a whole and Michigan as a whole, and hearing that top talent is telling other top talent how amazing Detroit and the state of Michigan is, let alone the Detroit Red Wings organization, right? And so I know that plays a key role into it because you're going there on a daily basis, but from a family perspective, you know, you got to look at that too. That's probably the other half of it all, right? Is, am I going to like playing here? And then am I going to like living here? So, yeah. And then Patrick Kane also talking about, you know, Ken Daniels making such iconic calls and how much he enjoys hearing those types of calls, and the call that he made against the Chicago Blackhawks, that he will be able to cherish that forever. And he'll probably get it framed somehow if you can get a video framed with some sound and then have it hanging up on his wall, you know. But Derek, what's your overall thoughts on that media availability?
Showtime. That's all I pictured Patrick Kane doing in front of his screen, watching Ken Holland call that last goal against Chicago. Showtime. That's how I picture him. But I mean, there was great pressers. I like the takeaway from both of them, especially with Fischer and Kane, because obviously they're brand new to the league to the team last year. And like Fischer said, he was going off like he's getting used to the program, getting used to playing with the teammates. He knows what he can do, and he believes he's a double-digit goal scorer. And I think he can do that too, especially with him having a year under his belt. And same goes for Kane, just to a higher extent, because first year on a new team, only made it halfway through the season. And hip surgery, and now he's coming back, and he believes he's going to be even better than he was last season. So,
yep,
I feel like these are some great things to take away, because it definitely ups the spirit for the Red Wings a little bit. Like, we know we were missing a few things, and we got rid of a few components this year, especially in the goal scoring area. So hopefully, with what we brought in, what these guys can bring back to the club, I think it's going to be either similar, maybe a little better than what they were doing last year. So.
And that's a really good segue into our main topics, Derek, because as you guys can see on the thumbnail and what we have below here, we're going to go ahead and talk about the roster additions and the subtractions that Steve Yzerman made this offseason. All right, Derek, let's go ahead and jump into it. So for those of you that may have been living under a rock, the Red Wings roster subtractions, let's go ahead and start with that. So the Red Wings did not re-sign Shane Gosper, Jake Wallman, Daniel Sprong, who's actually still currently on the open market, which is surprising to me. So he might be going overseas at this point. Who knows, Derek? David Perron, who went to the Ottawa Sens. James Reimer, I can't remember what team he went to, but good luck to him. And then Robbie Fabry, who was recently traded to make room for someone like Vladimir Tarasenko. And then the players, you know, that we added was Eric Gustafsson, Simon Edvinsson, Jonathan Berggren, who still needs to be signed, Vladimir Tarasenko, Cam Talbot, and then technically for Fabry, based on the way we have it listed, and we'll talk about that too. That's an open spot. Is that Tyler Mott? We'll discuss that. But yeah, you got Gustafsson replacing Ghost Bear, Edvinsson replacing Wallman, Berggren replacing Sprong, Tarasenko replacing Perron, Talbot replacing Reimer, and then XYZ player replacing Fabry. So, Derek, let's go ahead and jump into the Ghost Bear and Gustafsson comparison. So, this one is a little goofy because they're completely total opposite players, right? Shane Ghost Bear, someone who puts up a decent amount of points, good on the PP. That's a similarity with Gustafsson, but no defense, right? Eric Gustafsson, good defense, can quarterback a PP2, some PK, but won't put up the points that Shane Ghost Bear would put up, right? So compared to last season, you're looking at 25 less points when you're replacing Gustafsson for Ghost Bear. You're getting 34 more hits about there, right? Right around there. You're getting more penalty minutes, though. Gustafsson got 19 more penalty minutes. That's about 10-ish penalties more that you're taking per game, which sucks, right? You don't want to take more, but
I don't think it's per game, but
that could mean, like, you know, some bogus calls. Maybe he's being rough and rugged out there, you know, and being that facilitator type of guy who goes out and slam checks everyone for his teammates, you know. And then a little bit less block shots, but takes more, but also gives more in the defensive zone. But that comes from being a defensive defenseman, right? So it's a give and take. So with this, Derek, you know, your initial thoughts on this? Did the Red Wings upgrade or did they downgrade with this type of replacement here?
I think it's neither technically. I think we went in a lateral movement on this one just because we did give up a lot of offense on the D end, but we gained what we lost primarily on the defensive end because obviously Ghost Bear, not the biggest defensive defenseman that we've ever had, most likely just an offensive player. He does well at that end, but not very good going back on the D. Bye, Zach. But then you have Gustafsson over here who doesn't produce as many points on the offensive side, but with what he's probably going to stop on the D end, it might make up for that point hole there that we have, that 25 points. He could end up pretty much saving in that end instead of letting him go past him like Ghost would have done. So I think it's more of a lateral movement just because each one has, like you said, they're both complete polar opposite players. But with what they bring in each one, I think one's going to counteract the other.
I would agree. And you go back to Steve Yzerman's press conference and like right after the season, and even at the trade deadline, he kept on saying, we just got to be better defensively. And if you got to subtract points to make that happen, I think that's fine, especially when you have players like Lucas Raymond who should continue being better. And we talked about Patrick Kane having a full healthy season, off season for the first time in probably 5 years, it seems like, and a full season with the Red Wings, a second season with the Red Wings. I think that's kind of huge. I don't think a lot of people are really speaking on that a lot of these players that are coming back, it's either their second or third season under Lalonde. So that should help a lot, right, out on the ice and everyone understanding what the expectation is and what their roles are out on the ice and how to get things done the way they're supposed to. So, yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's a lateral movement. I think it was a move that was necessary. Would have liked to have seen it being a right-handed player. Gustafsson shoots a left, can play on the right side. But is he going to be a second pair? Is he going to be a third pair? I'm not exactly sure. It looks more like he's going to be on the third pair based on the minutes he played last season. He only played 21 minutes overall. I mean, Ghost Bear compared to Ghost Bear played 1546. That's over 200 more minutes that Ghost Bear played. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to take up all those minutes. Someone like Simon Edvinsson potentially, because that's going to be the next player that we talk about. I don't have as many numbers for this one as I would for the Ghost Bear and Gustafson one because numbers for the AHL, I don't have those and on hand. Those ones aren't as easy to come along. So, but going into it, Simon Edvinsson, Wallman. Edvinsson is younger and bigger. Wallman's offense was a key contributor to the Red Wings the past few seasons that he's been with us, and a reason why we traded for him, right? When we traded Nick Leddy to St. Louis Blues, I almost forgot his name. That's why I had a puzzling look on my face when I said that. Overall, I just believe, too, that Edvinsson plays better defense. I mean, we saw that in his stint last season, the second stint at least. I wouldn't say the first one, but he looked really good. He was playing in the top four. Lalone was putting him in key situations, and he looked really good out there. Did not look out of place at all. And so, Derek, now's the time to ask: Did we improve, or did we get worse with this addition and subtraction based on Wallman and Edvinsson?
I hate to say it, but I see another somewhat lateral movement for right now. I'll put a little asterisk next to that because obviously, pretty much the same thing that happened with Ghost and Gustafsson. We traded offense for defense. But the good thing with Ed is he's so young. This could be his first full season in the NHL. We know what his defensive upside is. It's great. But we really just don't know what that offensive upside is yet. So it could really just skyrocket through the roof. We don't know. But for right now, like the team we need defense. And Simon is beyond ready to come up and just basically lay out the team for us at this point. He is our second D now, basically, out there. I would think, because what the skills that he just provided so far. So
I would agree with you at this point based on the way that the roster is constructed. He is the number 2 defenseman. Not saying that he is overall number 2 defenseman currently right now because he is still very young and doesn't really have NHL experience. I mean, he still has under like 50 games. But yeah, he is the second best defenseman on this roster, whether if you want to believe it or not. And that speaks volume, I believe, in certain ways, right? Like one, it's awesome. And in other ways, it's like, it's not. Like it's almost a little scary because you don't know. And that's kind of my biggest takeaway from this is, you know, Wallman put up 21 points. I think it was 12 goals, 9 assists for 62 games last season. A healthy scratch towards the end of last season. I believe majority of the games that he did end up missing, the Detroit Red Wings won, which is very interesting, right? And you could take it as you want, right? The Red Wings probably outplayed because Wallman was out, or the Red Wings simply just did play better with Wallman out. So Edvinsson, can he score 12 goals like Jake Wallman did? Maybe. I don't think so. I think maybe you're looking at closer to like 5. Can he put up around 20 points in about the same games? I think that's possible, and that would be awesome to have, right? Is Simon Edvinsson comes in his first season, puts up 20 points. I think that's an A+ right there and plays well defensively. I'm not really looking for points out of him. I'm looking for him to play a solid defensive game out there and be that number 2 guy that we want him to be. And that seems to be the expectation is he locks down a top 4 spot, eventually becomes Mo Seider's pairing on that top pair towards the end of the season or even sooner. I hope it's sooner. But yeah, I don't want to necessarily say that this is a lateral movement, Derek. So, but there's a lot to be unseen, but I will think, or I'm going to say right now that I do think that this is an improvement. I don't think that this is a downgrade by whatsoever. Maybe just throw this out there. We gave up a second to move Jake Wallman. So, I hope I didn't push too many buttons out there, but so that kind of speaks volume as well. Any last words on this one, Derek?
I just hope that he comes in and smashes the league up. So we'll move on to the next guy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I hope he has a fantastic season. It's going to be interesting to see how he fares out in a full 82 game season in the NHL. Hopefully he plays in a full 82 game season. Next up, Derek, we got this one. This one's very interesting. We got Daniel Sprong and then Jan and Tim Berggren. With Berggren, he's younger, can bring offense in a 2-way game. I believe he can bring similar offensive numbers to what Daniel Sprong did. And then pretty much going to play a similar role, which is bottom six depth scoring with some defense, not the greatest defense, but with some defense, has somewhat of a two-way game. More of a playmaker, but yeah. What thoughts on this, Derek? Improvement, downgrade?
Everyone's going to hate me for just saying lateral movements this entire time, but that's kind of what I've been feeling most of these moves literally just have been. Obviously, we're getting younger, going from Sprung to Bergerie. If Sprung doesn't re-sign with it, I don't think it's going to happen because obviously I don't think it ended up on great terms at the end of the season last year. So it sounds like Bergerie definitely has a spot coming up. And you're right. They're basically very similar players. As long as we get a little more defensive effort out of Bergerie, I feel like it's going to be an improvement to the team because as we watched Sprung, he had some good goals. He had a good shot, but you could see that effort and compete on the back end just wasn't really there. He would just give up a lot of times. He would be like, just let go, do the defense do their thing. But it's like, as long as we get a little bit more of a push from Bergerie in that area, I think we'll do okay, especially being on the bottom pairings, which is most likely where he'll end up. So I don't think it's a bad call for us. I think I'll go with a slight improvement on this, as long as we get what we need from him.
Yeah, I mean, the improvement has to come from, a better defense than what Sprong provided. That's a plus instantly right there, and I believe he can do that. Because Sprong, much like Jake Wallman, also was a healthy scratch towards the end of the season too, right? He was someone who was very hot at the start of the season. They got very cold as the season progressed. So, yeah, and then in the points category too. I mean, this season in 76 games, 18 goals, 25 assists for 43 points. This technically is not Berggren's first NHL season. It will be his first full NHL season if all goes well. I think that should be the expectation for him, especially with how he's played in the AHL. If he can't do that, I think that there's questions that should be pointed to or made out. Like, is this a player that actually can become a middle six, top six player in the NHL? If not after this season, if we don't see any improvement from the first season that we saw him play and then having that full season in the AHL to dominate, then it might be time to start asking questions. Okay, do we move on from this player? Because looking at it moving forward, Derek, there's not going to be much room in that middle six. So Berggren this season, if they sign him, which he still doesn't have a contract, there's a lot on his shoulders to get that next deal. So he's got to put in a lot of work. Derek, do you think that he could put up more points than what Daniel Sprong did this past season?
Well, normally if you go off what they do in the AHL, then try to equivalent to the NHL, it's usually cut down in half. And being over a point per game player in the AHL, I do see him being able to hit that around 40 to 50 point marker. I really hope he learns, because a lot of like I see in Burge is like a lower level Patrick Kane a little bit, a lot more offensive upside than the defensive side, but he does pull away to the defense a little bit more, so that's a good thing to see. I just hope that when he gets up and gets a little bit more trained with all the older guys and the mentors of the league or the team now, we get to see that production skyrocket as well. So I think he can pull out the same production, and we all remember he is 23 years old now, so even older than Raymond and Sider out there. Yeah. So this is kind of what he definitely needs to do if he wants to cement a place in the league now.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting. Is he going to be the line driver if he is on the third line or the fourth line? Because you look at that third line, we talked about Christian Fischer playing on that third line with Kopp and Rasmussen. So is he the go-to scorer on that third line if that's where you put him? So there's a lot of questions to be made. Where's he going to thrive the most? Because that's what you want for that player to do, is for him to thrive, regardless if you want to keep him or not. So if plans are to not keep him, you want him to thrive, so that way you get the most out of the trade. And you want him to thrive regardless if you want to keep him, so that way he's in the best spot to succeed. Nice catch, buddy.
Yeah, a little smack there. I was like, no, I'm balancing this on 4 books, a Bible, and some hand warmers right now. So I can't let this laptop go falling down 4 feet.
For those of you that don't know, yes, Derek does have Bible study directly after this podcast recording.
Praise Jesus.
Amen. Yeah, overall, I think with this, Derek, I guess I should ask improvement, decline.
I'd say improvement. As long as we see what we get to see. Obviously, a lot of these have little asterisks next to it, but I will say improvement at this point.
I would say improvement as well. Yeah, but it's on Berggren at this point. It's on no one else. He has to take the reins and pull the sled forward like Santa Claus. So, this is I think that this is probably the best. No, I lied. This is the second best one, I would say. Perron versus Tarasenko, Derek. We had to trade Robbie Fabry in order to make this happen, right? So to say, we had the cap space, but we needed to free up more, right? And paying that for Fabry to play, it looked like it was going to be on the fourth line, $4 million. It doesn't really tickle anyone's fancy, especially mine. Love Fabry, great player, but it was time to move on from that. It just really wasn't the greatest contract ever. It made sense at the time, but looking at it now, great. Tarasenko, yeah, 2-year, $4.75 million. Tarasenko is younger, faster, and a better shooter. However, Perron, with his ability to protect the puck, you're kind of losing that. I'm not familiar with Tarasenko's game to protect the puck, so if anyone wants to let me know down in the comments, please let me know. Throw us in any other comments too, what you think about this video so far. Same point production, pretty much. More goals from Tarasenko. I think he scored like 6 more goals, 8 more points than what Perron did this season. Perron put up, I think, 47, and then Tarasenko was like 55, which is awesome to see. He also put up 20 plus goals. Tarasenko, former 40-goal player. Do I think he can get there? No, but at the age of 32, still, he's kind of creeping out of his prime, but we've seen players just boom out of nowhere. The ability to put up 25 plus goals, I think, is a reality with Tarasenko. So they both played about the same amount of ice time. Not a lot, about 1,200 minutes each. You gain, like I said, you gain more points, you gain more goals. A little bit less hits, but you're the biggest takeaway from this, Derek. Vladimir Tarasenko, he never takes penalties, pretty much. I think he only took like 12 penalty minutes or something like that. Compared to Perron's like 45. So you're subtracting 30 penalty minutes. That's awesome. There were times where Perron made some questionable or took some questionable penalties. But some really good ones, like defending Dylan Larkin. I would say that one I will always defend. For obvious,
just gotta hit the right guy, but
yeah, just gotta hit the right guy. Probably wouldn't have been as long. But anyways, yeah. Vladdy may give up the puck more too, but could be because he has the puck more in the O zone. Perron was deployed in all 3 zones, where Vladimir Tarasenko was deployed mostly in the O zone side. So, Derek, upgrade, downgrade?
I say this is a little bit of an upgrade. Obviously, we are losing that rough and tough grit that we had with Daddy P. I mean, I don't think Vlad's any weak guy down in the corners. He does do his job. He does it pretty well. He's just not as physical as Perron was. That is pretty obviously, especially with the penalty minutes and his ability to keep the puck away from everybody. Perron did a great job at that. But we got to remember, Perron's aging up there. He's probably, I believe he's turning 35 this season. We've already seen his production slowly staggering down a little bit. So, and right now with Tarasenko, he's still at that middle grade where he probably still has a couple years of being able to do the production that he's at. And if we surround him by the right people, I think we could easily see another 25-goal season out of him, which is exactly what the Red Wings will need to replace the production that we probably lost when we added more defensive depth into the team. So I'd say it's definitely an upgrade, a younger version of Perron, just minus the ability to beat the crap out of somebody in the corner.
I don't know, Derek. Make no mistake, Vladimir Tarasenko is not a small dude. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2". He's well over 200 pounds. I think he's like 215. he's a big boy. He's a bowl of oatmeal, as I like to call him. Thick boys. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Looking at some of the players that we talked about, right? We lost some offense and then added some defense, but now here you're matching some offense, but also adding some by replacing Tarasenko with Daddy P, right? We're gonna miss you, Daddy P, but yeah, he was going on the downside where Vladimir Tarasenko is still kind of like on that middle ground where he's not exactly declining, but it's like slowly going there, right? Being on his age that he's at right now. But I really do think that, well, I should say this too. You look at back, Vladimir Tarasenko, the way that he was utilized over in Ottawa Senators, right? He does shoot left, but he likes to play on his off wing, so he likes to play on the right side. Well, what do the Sens love to do? Put players on the sides that they typically don't like to play on, much like Chicherin, who they force play on the right side and is a left-handed D. That, so Vladimir Tarasenko, he doesn't really prefer to do that. But he's okay with doing it. If we utilize him properly, I think we could see a bolster in that numbers that he put up this past season. And then he had the short stint with the Florida Panthers, who were just absolutely stacked. I believe he was like on their third line for them, maybe on their second power play. So I think there's a lot more than what the numbers provide. And so I think Tarasenko could definitely put up a 60+ point season for us, which is awesome. We need that. It's going to be interesting to see how the lineup shake up too. Left to be seen. So
I picture a lot of movement this year. So that first line we see coming out, don't get married to anything. Everything's going to get moved around by midway season.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, Derek, your boy James Reimer is gone, but we brought in your other boy, Cam Talbot.
Whoa. I don't know when all these old men became my boys, but okay.
Yeah, for this episode, they are. In Talbot, you're getting a better goaltender, Derek, straight up. I mean, the numbers don't lie, or at least looking at it from the perspective of what they've done before coming into the Red Wings, because we've said that about other goaltenders too. And for whatever reason, the Red Wings just don't do very well with goaltenders and good numbers producing. Yeah, you have 3 goaltenders. It's unclear who the starter is. Some say Husso still, which is surprising to me. Some say Lyon because of what he did last season. I can jump on that. Then you got Talbot. You look at his numbers, and then you compare him to the Red Wings goaltenders that are returning this season. It's a night and day difference. I would suggest going with Talbot, but can Talbot be the difference maker to be the goalie to post over a 910 save percentage, Derek? So is Talbot an upgrade or a downgrade from Reimer? I believe 100% this is an upgrade.
You gotta ask that question at this point.
I'm sorry, Carlo. I'm doing it. I'm answering my question before I let Derek go. I think Talbot is the starting goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, they signed him for 2 years too. So if it's not this season, then it's going to more than likely be for next season. So upgrade, downgrade, Derek.
It's definitely an upgrade from Reimer, who I believe signed. I think they signed with him to Toronto. Oh no, it's Buffalo. Buffalo got him.
I thought it was Buffalo, but I didn't want to. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I've never seen the Toronto jersey. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. No, Buffalo. Yeah. So Buffalo got Reimer. Yeah, we got Talbot. A little bit older, but obviously, like you said, those numbers. What I think a .913 this season or something like that.
Good number. I haven't seen a Red Wing do that since I can't even tell you when.
Where's Chris Osgood? Maybe him. But I mean, it's definitely an upgrade. Obviously, the age is a scary thing. Getting him until he's 38 years old now, maybe 39. I'm pretty sure he'll turn in because he turns 37 this season. I'm pretty sure, but I do think there's going to be something more in the pipeline that Steve's doing, because right now we're sitting with 8 defense and 3 goalies. So I don't think that's how it's going to shake up to be the end of the or the starting lineup for the year. So I feel like there's more going to happen, especially on the goalie end. We saw what it was with the 3 we did last year. Didn't work great. And we have Campbell on the AHL right now. So if someone even got injured, we have someone to get called up right away. So I feel like there's some movements to be happening. So I'm going to go with Talbot is going to be our starter. I feel like something might happen with Billy. I'm not sure. line, possibly just because he might be the more
flexible,
the little better numbers in the short run of his game. Obviously not a full season goalie, it seems to be right now, but if you get him at a perfect amount of games, like 30, 40 games at most, I feel like you have a better package offer there. But going back to just the goalies and not seeing who we're going to get rid of, I do think it was an improvement. We have a better goalie who finally has over a .91, so hopefully that's going to help improve our goals against this year, because last year it was pretty atrocious at the end. We also got all that defense now too, so hopefully that'll be able to help out the goalies in the back. So
yeah, you brought up the 8 defensemen. Once they sign Moritz Seider, it's then 9 because you're inserting Albert Johansson, who has to be on the roster as well. So yeah, 9 defensemen, 3 goaltenders, and then I believe once you get Berggren, Veleno, and Raymond signed, that's 12 forwards. So you have 24, right? 24 on the roster. So one's got to go. Who is it? More than likely, it's got to be one of those defensemen. Unless you're rocking 9 defensemen. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want to see it, but yeah, I guess it's possible. Try something different.
Would that be the first NHL team to ever go into the start of the season with rocking with 9 defenders?
I'm sorry to correct you, Zach. I think it's only 8 defenders.
When they sign
but still,
Seider,
it's not great.
No, when they sign Seider, it counts as 9.
We got Ben, Moritz, Simon, Jeff, Ollie, Erickson, Albert, and Justin Hall. Who am I missing?
Oh, Lagesson. I guess you can technically say that he's going down to the AHL, but he technically can't play at NHL time. So, okay, you're right.
That's what I forget.
Fine. I lose. All right, Derek, let's move on. Let's go into the fun one, but I agree with you. It's a 100% upgrade. I think Talbot can be the starting goaltender for the Red Wings for obvious reasons. Can't speak today. Jesus. Obvious.
Jesus is not helping you today on this holy of days.
Please help me. Fabry, Derek. Is it Tyler Mott? Is he the replacement? Or is it a young player? This is technically the final spot on the roster that would be available on the forwards end. If it works out for the defensemen, if they stick the way it is, if the goaltending sticks the way it is, if they sign Berggren, if they sign Veleno, who's in arbitration, they technically have one spot to replace Fabry after being traded. Is it Tyler Mott? Is it Danielson? Is it Casper? Or is it Mazur? More than likely, this would be a 4th line spot. Tyler Meyer has NHL experience. Years of NHL experience. These 3 players combined, Mazur, Casper, and Danielson, they have 1 game. We know Lalone wants young players, or at least that's what it was last season, right? He wanted youth injected into the lineup. Is Steve going to go into the season filling in? I like how you can see my little stuffed toys right there with my hand. I got a little poop in a Red Wings guy ball right there. Can you see it right above my hand?
Yes, I can. It's kind of funny. I don't know why it's popping up.
Yeah, neither do I. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there if you guys can or are watching on YouTube. But Derek, it's just very interesting to see how they're going to go filling in the spot. I mean, can we see Danielson, Casper, or Mazur possibly making the 3rd line? Do we want to see them playing on the 4th line? But either way, going into it, either of these players, these 4 players that we mentioned, can replace what Fabry provided. For at least on Mott's sake, it probably won't be in the points category, but it will be on the grit side. He is a smaller player. I believe he's like 5'9". He's not a big guy, but he plays with a similar style of play of like an Austin Czarnik. So for me, that's a reason why I don't think Tyler Mott is the replacement. I think it would be one of these younger players because I think these younger players can provide more on the point side, but it just really all depends, like I mentioned, is this player going to replace Fabry to be the 4th line player, or will they have an opportunity to play on the 3rd line to provide more points? But going into it, I feel the most similar player to Fabry would probably be Mazur, but he needs to add weight. He's like 175 pounds. Like Carlos said, he's 175 pounds wet. Like he needs to gain 10 to 15 pounds this offseason. The next best fit for me would probably be Casper, which pretty much goes against everything I've said leading up to this point because I've been clamoring for Nate Danielson to make the roster. I think Nate Danielson has a really strong shot to make it. He has to beat out players like Casper and Mazur, who've been in the pipeline longer and more experience, a year more experience than him. But Casper has that gritty, get under your skin, play your heart out every shift kind of guy. And that's exactly what Fabry is and was for this team, Derek. And I think a lot of fans would agree with me on that. Casper might not put up similar numbers, but he will provide a great depth role and fill a center spot. If an injury happens to someone like Joe Veleno, if Andrew Kopp gets injured, you can move Veleno or Casper up. So there's that versatility with it. So regardless of the player, Derek, my long-winded speech here, is it an upgrade or a downgrade by trading Fabry and inserting one of these four players in there? And then if you are inserting one of these four players, which one are you inserting?
That's a hard one because with these guys, we're losing the NHL experience. Well, obviously we got Mott back, whatever you want, Mott. We got Mott back to replace him. Obviously, he'll probably be the starter in that fourth line for the opening night. But I do see that that's going to be that one spot minus injuries that's going to be switched out a lot, especially with these three guys that we have right here. Do I know which order I want them in? Not really. Casper and Mazur, I think, are probably going to get called up before Danielson because Danielson's going to have his first year in the Pro League in the AHL, and he probably needs to get some time under his belt down there before he makes the adjustment and jump up to the NHL. But obviously, if he blows it out of the water down there and 2-3 points a game or something like that, the first 5 games, what can you do? That you just see the talent there, you got to bring it up. But I feel like that's going to be the spot all year round where it's going to be continuously getting switched out between 4 players, 3 players. And barred any injuries, it's probably going to happen nonstop. I say at least maybe a third of the season split between all 3 of them is what I was hoping to see. Obviously, with 4 of them down there, we're probably going to see see Danielson. I don't know if we'll see Danielson this year, though. That's just the thing. It all depends on how he does in camp, how he does for the AHL, because he obviously needs to stay down there and get some experience first before he gets pulled up. So it's going to be between Mott, Mazur, and Carter, I would say. That's going to be for that position. Anyone, though, I'm happy to see in that role right now, just because obviously that bottom role, depth role, and they all have that good almost all of them had a good 200-foot game, then go back and forth pretty well. Obviously, some need to gain some weight, get a little bit bigger, but it's just going to be a kind of a shit show out there in that position. We're just going to see a lot of people flipping in and out, and the Wings just have to do it at this point with the log jam in our prospect pool of people trying to get up into the league. We have to see what these guys can do.
Yeah, definitely. That last part I agree with 100%. Everything else, yeah, I you made a lot of great points. I would say majority of it I will agree with. There really wasn't a point where I disagree. So upgrade or downgrade, Derek? With Fabry, I mean, he almost put up, I think it was 20 or 30 something points. I don't have his card pulled up, but I can. But yeah, you're almost a 20 goal scorer. Just under that, just under 40-point guy. So
I would have to go with a downgrade with that another asterisk right next to that and big, bold, 20 of them, because we just don't know what we got yet. We got to see what comes out of the pipeline and which one of these guys is going to hit. If all of them hit, I'd say it's a huge win.
Yeah, it's a big, huge wait and see. But one thing that I would like to see, Derek, to agree with you on the one thing that you did say is that a slight rotation at the start of the season. If you believe that the likes of these 3, Danielson, Casper, and Mazur, or even just the 2, Mazur and Casper, if you believe that those 2 out of camp are a better player than Mott, then you make Mott that extra forward. As the season progresses, you rotate those 2 in their first 9 games, right? Let them get those stints, and then you ultimately make that decision. Do we keep doing this and keep one on here, or do we, essentially just keep Tyler Mott in here? It's going to be very interesting. We'll go more in depth about it in future episodes. The roster construction, but we at least wanted to go into the roster additions and the subtractions. And Derek, I guess overall, the final question that I have for you is, well, actually, I lied. I have a bit more questions, I believe. I don't know. But do you think this team got better, or do you think they're going to be better? Did they overall improve? Based on what we said, it does sound like that there is going to be improvement, but how much more improvement? We're obviously giving some offense, but we're taking in more defense. So, is this team going to be able to allow less goals in and provide more goals moving forward?
I mean, I feel like we're going to be pretty stagnant, very similar to last year at this point, minus a few additions and subtractions, obviously, that we just went over. But in total, it still seems like a playoff fringe team. We're just on the cup. We might be able to make it in if we hit that high, which would, I think, maybe the high this year could be like a 95, 96 point season, which would get you in most likely to the playoffs. How well we'll do, I don't know. I feel like the Red Wings can always steal a game or two just because we got the grip for it. But like I said, just pretty stagnant growth, nothing crazy. I feel like Steve really didn't get everything that he wanted to this year, but obviously the cap did go up, but we have a lot of things that we still have money to get tied up into. So we really didn't have the money to throw at some of these big names like Stamkos, who got paid out $4x8 million. We just didn't have that kind of funds to throw at somebody. If you want to do a friendly 4x5, I would like, get over here, buddy. Come play with us. No, we didn't get that. So obviously not the way we all wanted to pan out, but I think it was as good as it really was going to get for us. We upgraded a little bit on the goalie. Defense got a little bit more defensively minded. We brought someone in that can hopefully score another 20-plus goals. So, and then we get to see what our new guys can potentially do this season. So I say a slight victory there for what we had.
Yeah, touching on that last part, I think, with some newer guys, whether if they are new or if players like Berggren, who we've seen before, but still a new player, right? These new additions to the roster, I think it's going to be very exciting to see what they do. I think we're going to be very surprised at what they can offer to this team. But I'll agree with you overall. I do think that it's going to be very similar to last year's team, right on the cusp. Right. You look at the Atlantic Division, no one really got better. No one really got worse either. Some weird moves were made. The Metro is also very weird. Washington, are they going to be better? I think they'll be better, but by how much? Carolina didn't really get better. New Jersey got better. The Pittsburgh Penguins didn't, there's a lot of things, right? And so it's not just on the Red Wings, but it's on other teams too. And all it takes is one key injury. Same as the Red Wings. Watch Dylan Larkin.
No,
injured.
Don't say that. Don't say that word. Don't put that juju out there.
But overall, I do think it would be an improvement, but it might not be in the way that some people expect it to. So as long as we get a full, so for me, an improvement for me, and call it an improvement season or an improved season versus last year, if you're not getting it in the standings, like points wise, a full healthy season of Simon Edvinsson. We didn't even talk about Albert Johansson. That he really didn't fill in a spot for someone who was subtracted. But for him, if he can play more than 40 games and steal a third pairing spot on the lineup, I think that's awesome. If Berggren can get 40 plus points, things like this, these rookies, if we can see signs that they're improving and that they belong on this team moving forward and they can fill positions of need that we desperately need, I think that's a win. If we don't improve in the standings, then for me, I think that's an improvement. I think that's a win for the season. So a lot to be seen. There's a lot of unknowns out there, but let us know down in the comments once again what you guys think is going to happen. Let us know what you thought about everything that we mentioned. Derek, do you have anything else that you want to touch on the Fabry, Danielson, Casper, Mazer, Mott comparison? Any other comparison that we made?
No, I'm pretty good on set. I just want everyone to remember, just think of it this year. This was the one year that Steve probably had to make very few moves, and it would be okay even if we're stagnant this year. Just think of next year, though. How many people that we have coming off contracts that are old and we don't really want on the team anymore? It's going to be a different year. So I'm expecting some bigger moves and bigger jumps than what we saw this year, next year. But overall, I think Steve did okay with what he had.
Yeah, I think I said this in our group chat. The more that I look on Puckpedia and looking at the roster construction, as many of you may be doing as well as I am, your brain starts to hurt a little bit. The one thing that I keep telling myself every time that I catch myself looking at it and looking puzzled and confused and saying, what the fuck is Steve doing? I always say, oh, yeah, there's Mitch Marner, there's Mikko Rantanen, there's Leon Draisaitl available in free agency next year. And we have how much money in cap space? Does a little bit of math, like $30 million available that we could utilize? Just keep reminding yourselves that if you're down in the funk about this season and Steve not being able to get players like Steven Stamkos, Derek mentioned, yeah, it is unfortunate. And I do believe you're right, Derek. I think Steve probably isn't happy that he wasn't able to get some players that he would have wanted to, but that doesn't mean he can't do that next offseason, right? And so try to look at it as a blessing in disguise. Derek's got his Bible on hand, so we'll use it. But yeah, try to stay positive. I think, Lucas Raymond can make that jump. I think Moritz Seider can make a clear jump. Hopefully he doesn't get the same type of deployments as he did last season, but a full season of Evanston, Albert Johansson getting 40 games, if Berggren can play a full season and be a legitimate threat in the middle six, I think it's a very successful, and we should be a very happy fan base for this team. So a lot to look forward to, Derek. I'm very excited. Are you excited? I'm pumped. It's been a long off season already, man.
And we only got like 2 more months, and then we get to go back into hockey. So that's all I'm worried about.
Yeah. I guess we can kind of wrap it up, go into around the league news. There's obviously been a bunch of signings, the minimum deal signings. I guess the one that is kind of related to Red Wings, Braden Schneider signed with the New York Rangers for a 2x2.2 million deal. It's related to the Red Wings because they still have another young defenseman that they need to sign, or maybe it was a different player that got signed and they still need to sign Schneider. Either way, the Rangers still need to sign one more player. They do have just over $5 million. I'm not saying that they have to force a trade because they don't have enough cap. They have enough cap to sign this player, but they won't have very much next year. So, Truba, just come to Detroit. Leave your wife in New York. She'll be okay there. But rumor is that Buffalo is also interested in Truba. So, but yeah, that's kind of around the league news that I have. Derek, do you have any around the league news? Not really.
Yeah, nothing really happened this week. It was kind of a boring week in the hockey world, honestly.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. No, I think that's Coyotes. I don't know if I mentioned, but they revoked the owner of the Coyotes. He gave up his rights to having an ownership of a team in the future. So Derek, let's pitch in to submit our offer and put the team on the moon and call them the Orbital Mooners.
I'm down for that. Thanks, Mike Morello, for giving up finally after losing that auction again, or if it was even a real auction. I have no idea. That guy is crazy. I don't know what he was trying to do. He got $1 billion, so he wins. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think he was serious enough. But shout out to Grindline Pod for actually putting out this on Twitter. Kind of tweeting at the NHL saying, hey, it would be cool allowing the fans to have ownership of an NHL team, much like how the Green Bay Packers are owned by the fans, right? So that would be pretty cool. So shout out to them for that great idea. I would definitely pitch in to own myself part stake of an NHL franchise.
I got like $20 I can throw in.
Yeah, that'll get you.
How much is that going to buy me?
Yeah, I'll get you one share, I think. But all right, buddy. I think that's it. I think we could wrap it up. So no Carlos, so no Red Wings honorable mention. I know we've been slacking on that. If you guys are even making it this far in the episode, if you are, thank you. Congratulations. You've won a prize of continuing to hear us in our outro on the end of this episode.
Just ignore the fact that my name says Carlo at the bottom because I am not taking over his wonderful job.
His name is not Derek. His name is Carlo.
I am Carlo.
I am Carlo. Oh, boy. Okay, Derek, final thoughts. Go ahead. Go.
Steve, you did what you could this season. I am not upset with you. Hopefully the Wings are equal or better. So that's all we can really pray for at this moment. Time will tell. We'll see how this year shakes up for us in about 2 to 8 months when it actually starts going. So, yeah, go Red Wings. Hopefully everything just falls into place and maybe Leon Draisaitl ends up playing over here with his other German best friend, Sider.
That would be awesome. Yeah, my final thoughts are let's go Red Wings. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't. Enter in our giveaway. Win a free hat. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Get a ranking higher on there. Our merch store is available. You can buy a hat. You can buy a t-shirt. You can buy a tank top. You can buy a sweatshirt. Stickers. All that cool stuff. Working on, I think, traveler mugs would be cool, or tumblers. I think that would be really cool for coffee. Yeah. Anyways, final thoughts. Those are mine, not yours. We're going to wrap this one up, Derek. Thank you for joining us once again. If you are returning, if you are new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give your thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear you. We want to interact with you. Thumbs up. Let's get it over 20 likes. 5 stars. Do your thing. And until next time, we'll see y'all on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.